Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Sports Talk with Austin, your daily dose of sports and entertainment. And can you believe it? We are at the halfway point of the regular season in college football. It is officially week 8, and it is time to preview this week's games and talk about all things week 8. We got some of the biggest matchups, and let's start off with that, by the way. Let's start off with arguably the biggest matchup in the Big Ten this weekend. You got number 7 Penn State at number 3 Ohio State. Penn State coming to the shoe. This is a game right here. A lot of fans have this circle because we're going to find out a lot about Penn State. Ohio State had that clutch last second road victory in South Bend against Notre Dame. Their toughness was tested, and they were able to find a way to squeak out a 17-14 win over the Irish. And now Penn State, this is the biggest game of their season. They're going to Columbus, hostile environment. Can Drew Aller and company find a way to pull this out? Can James Franklin win another big game? I think it's going to be very interesting because Drew Aller is not a very good quarterback when it's on the road. It's going to be a tough environment. Ohio State has proven that they can play defense, and when their offense is struggling. I think this is going to be a really, really good game. I think this is going to be a defensive-minded game because Penn State has a very special defense. They've shown that. They get a lot of turnovers. They crash down and stop the run. But I think, Ohio State, Ryan Day, their experience being here, I think Ohio State finds a way to win another close game. And I think Ohio State wins this game 20-13. I think the Buckeyes pull out a defensive thriller, and Ohio State beats Penn State, and James Franklin once again falls a little short. But on to the next game within the Big Ten. It's number 2 Michigan at Michigan State. It's a big time rivalry that always normally delivers. Michigan has been on one of the biggest, defensive tears as of late. Great pick sixes, turnovers, blowing teams out. Well, they're coming up to East Lansing to take on Michigan State. Noah Kim, Mel Tucker is no longer the head coach. He got fired for cause. He's trying to protest it. All that surrounding Michigan State. Plus, you have the element of what happened in this game last year in the tunnel with Jim Harbaugh and his players. And now many people are wondering, how's everyone going to respond to that? I think, this being a rivalry game, I think this is going to be one of Michigan's bigger tests of the year besides Ohio State, Penn State. Just the fact this is a rivalry game, I think the offense doesn't look as good. I think Michigan State's going to take it to them. They're going to pull out some fake punts, trick plays, because that's what you typically do in a rivalry game. But I still think Michigan's got too much horsepower. I think J.J. McCarthy's going to make a couple big throws and set up his team for the winning field goal. I think Michigan wins a tight, close game. I know everyone's saying this is Michigan, arguably the best defense of football next to Georgia. How could you? But I think Michigan's going to win a close one, 23-21. I think Michigan holds on the road and in a hostile environment and gets it done. Now on to a very big ACC matchup this week. You got number 16 Duke at number 4 Florida State. And the big question in this game, will Riley Leonard be healthy and ready to play? Well, right now his status is uncertain. It's obviously a big hit if he isn't healthy, and they're going up to Tallahassee. Florida State, many people did not, especially Florida State, will have to game plan a little different because Riley Leonard could open up things a little different for the Seminoles defense because he's a running quarterback. But as far as this game is concerned, though, I think not a lot of people had this game circled on the calendar. Duke Florida State's going to be a fun regular season matchup. I think it's been a sleeper game ever since Duke pulled off that big upset against Clemson, and now that Duke has shown that, hey, we can hang with Notre Dame. We can hang with all these teams. Florida State better be careful because Mike Elko's got his guys playing. I mean, Riley Leonard being absent is going to be possibly being absent is going to be a big key because if he's not there, it could make the Duke offense one dimensional. The Duke defense, it's going to be up to them, to slow down Florida State and keep them in tow. But I think at the end, I think the Seminoles have too much offense. I think Jordan Travis makes more plays and just too much at the end. I've got Florida State 34-17. I think Florida State pulls away late, just too much. Now, on to Pac-12 After Dark. Number 14, Utah, and number 18, USC. And now, for both these teams, there's a lot of interesting and intriguing storylines. Starting with Utah, is Cam Rising, is he going to be back this season? Is he going to potentially be back for this game and healthy? All questions. How long can the offense keep afloat without him? USC, can they fix their defense? Can their special teams get right? Can the offensive line just hold up for at least 3 seconds, give Caleb a chance to look at his receivers? Caleb Williams throwing 3 picks against a feisty Notre Dame defense. I mean, it's just one of those things. USC, you got to get it fixed because it doesn't get any easier because Utah is a very good defense. They're very talented. Cole Bishop, one of the best middle linebackers in the Pac-12, maybe even in the country. I think, Utah with a lot of great corners and safeties bearing down on these great receivers. This O-line can't give Caleb Williams any time. It's going to be heck back there all night for him like it was in South Bend. I get this is in Trojan land, and Utah, possibly without Cam Rising, can Nate Johnson, Bryson Barnes weather the storm and keep things rolling. I think, and plus to the added element of, yes, Utah has not been a very good road team. But I think in this game here, I think USC, you would like to say that they're going to bounce back, but I don't know if I can trust their defense. Like, I know my good buddies Tim Prangley, Tony Altamore, and LBC Trojan, Rick, the voice of college football, USC, link in the channel. Go check them out. The channel will be in the link below. Great stuff. Go subscribe if you're a big USC fan. If you're not a troll, go troll them if you want. They will just take care of that themselves. But on to this game, though it'll be very interesting. I think, honestly, I think this is going to be one of the more, lower scoring games of the weekend, in my opinion. I know last year was a high scoring shootout, but I think Utah's defense is going to play ball control, and I could see somewhere in the ballpark of 27-20, 23-16. But at the end of the day, I think Utah with the ball control, I think Utah on the road gets a big-time primetime win, and I think they beat the Trojans 23-17. I think, Kyle Whittingham keeps the college football playoff hopes alive and gets it done on the road. It proves all the doubters wrong, and especially if Cam Rising is healthy for this game, that makes a big difference too. But I digress. Now, on to arguably the biggest SEC matchup today. You got number 17, Tennessee, at number 11, Alabama. And, I got a couple good buddies that are going to be really interested in this game. Shout out to him, Jackson Johnson of the Jacksonian. Link for his channel will be in the description along with USC Voice of College Football. Jeffrey from Only Talk Sports, link for his channel will be in the description as well. Go check them all out. But onto this game here, I think this is very interesting because this is not the same Tennessee and this is not the same Alabama. Hendon Hooker, Bryce Young, both not there. Along with USC, Utah last year, these were arguably the 2 greatest regular season college football games that you've ever seen. And I just, Tennessee, for me, they're up and down. They went into the swamp. I had confidence they were going to beat Florida, and then they didn't. But they seem to be putting it back together. But then you got Alabama, who lost to Texas and struggled with South Florida. And it's like, with Jalen Milroe, You got to get him in a you can't get him in third and longs, or he might struggle a little bit. He's got the mobility. If you just give him some time, he can make some plays with his legs. I think this game's going to come down to who possibly makes less mistakes. And I think honestly, I think honestly that'll be Tennessee and Josh Heupel. I think they'll be able to run the ball and play their type of game. I think their defense will turn Jalen Milroe roll over maybe once or twice and capitalize and get some points off that. But I think Tennessee wins this game off of turnovers. Their defense creates the turnovers and gets a big time win. And I've got Tennessee winning 33-28. I think Tennessee gets it done on the road and makes it 2 years in a row. Now on to this game, Clemson at Miami of Florida. A tale of two interesting teams because you got Clemson coming off of a bye week. Clay Klubnik, and the Clemson offense have seemed to be finding their footing possibly. The defense for Clemson is their defense. It's always been elite to great. But you got Miami who blew it against Georgia Tech and then gets absolutely routed against Carolina. And now they drop out of the top 25, and here they are. They got a big chance to prove themselves, a big chance to prove that, hey, this is their chance. Clemson, I think, has taken a step back, but they're still Clemson. This is still a big win. Miami, they're a team that if they show up and play, they could beat anybody in front of them. But if they don't show up to play, they could lose to anybody, i.e. Georgia Tech a couple weeks ago. And I get that was because of the knee. You should just need the ball and it would have been done. Whole different situation that we don't need to get in right now. But as for this game, I think in this game, this is going to be another game where it's going to be up to Clemson's defense. I think Miami, is going to their offense isn't going to be as dynamic as it once was. I think in this game here, I think that it's going to be a Clemson. I think Clemson's going to be able to shut down their offense, shut down Miami's offense, Tyler Van Dyke. I think they're going to be able to make life heck for him back there. And I got a Clemson 19-10 win. I think the Tigers squeak out a hard-fought victory at Miami. Now on to a rather interesting Big Ten game. Minnesota at number 24, Iowa. Now, this is interesting for several reasons because you got Minnesota, who seems to be just falling apart at the seams here. That's unusual for a PJ Fleck team. And then you got Iowa, whose offense is staying afloat, but their elite defense is scoring the points for them. Now, in this game here, can Iowa do enough? Both these teams, their offenses are not very good, but their defenses are the heart and soul. They're what keeps them alive and breathing in these games. I think, honestly, this is going to be another one of those games that we saw this past Saturday, where it's going to be somewhere in the ballpark of 10-3, 17-13. I just think neither of these teams play offense very well, especially when they get pressured. I think the difference in this game is whose defense will create the most turnovers. I think Iowa's defense will create the turnovers, and it'll be just enough to get another hard-fought home win and keep their momentum in the Big Ten West to keep compiling wins. I got Iowa 17-12. I think Iowa gets it done at home. Now on to another Big Ten game, Rutgers at Indiana. Now, Rutgers is one win away from being bowl eligible. Indiana, they're 2-4. They're fighting for their life. Their season depends on it Saturday. And here we are. Can Rutgers get bowl eligible? Can they get a big win on the road? Or will Indiana and Taven Jackson and Tom Allen spoil bowl eligibility at least for another week for Rutgers? Well, Indiana did fire their offensive coordinator. And I think in this game, they did fire their offensive coordinator, and I think, it's going to help. But Indiana, their defense, Aaron Casey, he's a really talented player. I think he has potential to go top 25 in the upcoming NFL draft if he decides to go. But I think Indiana, for whatever reason, Rutgers, Indiana is always one of those games you can never pick a winner, right? Because it's one of those games that whoever wins is normally going bowling. And I think this game this year is going to be no different. I think Indiana Rutgers, this is another tight competitive game. But I think Rutgers pulls it out just like they did last week against Michigan State. But this time, I think Rutgers pulls it out 27-14. I think they win a little more comfortable this time because Indiana makes a couple late mistakes and Rutgers capitalize and gets them a nice little comfy win, and Rutgers is going bowling. Now, how about a little Big 12 action? Baylor at Cincinnati, two teams that are struggling to find their teams. Both these teams have got bad losses. Baylor, Texas State, Cincinnati, Miami of Ohio. It's just one of those things. It's Emory Jones for Cincinnati. He wasn't very good at Florida. He seems to be doing okay here, but it's still not good enough. Cincinnati had that big win over Pitt, but they just couldn't do nothing with it. Baylor lost to Texas State, but almost beat Utah. These two teams are basically the same team. I don't know who to trust more. Here, could Dave Aranda be fighting for his job at Baylor? Scott Satterfield, this is not looking good for his first year. It's hard to win at Cincinnati, but Baylor, if they want any chance of surviving, Dave Aranda want any chance of surviving the 23 season, he's got to have a win here. But unfortunately, I think Cincinnati at home is too tough. I think they get a 31-23 victory at home, and Satterfield gets him a nice win under his umbrella. Now, how about a little Pac-12 action, shall we? Washington State at number 9, Oregon. And Washington State, a team that was looking really good, maybe looking even like a dark horse Pac-12 contender, and they blew it all away with the 8-point loss, and then Arizona absolutely trampled them. And Cam Ward's Heisman hopefuls are going down the drain quickly. And then you got Oregon, who played arguably their toughest game to date against Washington and almost won. If they hadn't had those mistakes and it just would have taken the field goals, and they went for it late, and it cost them all that. But now they get to come home here in Austin, taking on a very high-powered Washington State offense. This is going to come down to Oregon's defense because obviously Oregon can score on offense. Washington State can score. But I believe that Oregon's defense is going to need to step up because Cam Ward is a handful to take care of. And let's be honest, Oregon struggles sometimes with mobile quarterbacks. They've shown that, like Michael Penix, he's not the most mobile, but he was able to create plays, step up in the pocket, and make big throws. And I think Cam Ward, Washington State, if they want a chance to win this game, they got to do the same thing. Got to get back to the Washington State offense that got them to where they got to. But I think Oregon, they're mad, they're angry, and I think Oregon wants to bounce back. I think it's not going to be a 44-6 routing like it was for Arizona over Washington State, but I got the Ducks winning 38-20 over Wazoo. I think the Ducks bounce back comfortably. Now, you got Oklahoma State at West Virginia. And boy, oh boy. West Virginia, you had the game won, but Dana Holgorsen, the Hail Mary, Donovan Smith, Houston walk-off miracle on Thursday night. Now can Neil Brown respond against a red-hot, all of a sudden, Mike Gundy, Oklahoma State-led team? And Oklahoma State, everyone left them for dead after getting beat by multi-scores by South Alabama, but here they come again. Here come the Pokies. They're coming up the Old Country Road. Can West Virginia rebound? That is my question. Can Neil Brown rally the troops and say, we got to put that loss behind us? Let's bury it. It's dead. It's over. Let's move on. It's over. Well, I tell you what, this is in Country Road. West Virginia has got one of the best home atmospheres in the Big 12, next to Oklahoma and Texas, and maybe even TCU. But Mike Gundy's got the hot hand. His team's playing really well, and they beat a top 25 team in Kansas last week. I think Oklahoma State is going to continue to ride that hot hand, and I think that they give West Virginia all they can handle, and they go on the road and spoil West Virginia's Big 12 hopes, and Mike Gundy gets another big win on the road. Oklahoma State, I think, is going to Oklahoma State, Mike Gundy, the team, the Pokies defense is going to come through again. I got Oklahoma State 31, West Virginia 26. I think they get it done. Now, on to the one of the more sleeper games of the week, the Big 12 championship game rematch of last year, TCU at Kansas State. Now, in many people's eyes, Kansas State next to Texas, Oklahoma were the favorites. TCU, has regressed a little bit. Will Howard, not the quarterback he once was. It helps when you have a great running game back there to help you out. I think in this game here, I think we're going to see what we did in the Big 12 championship game. But let's not forget, this was also a regular season rematch where TCU last year thumped them in the first meeting, and then it came back, and then the goal line stand kicked the game-winning field goal. Overtime, Kansas State wins the Big 12, goes on and plays Bama, and then the rest of the story is written. But as for this game, you got two different teams. You got Chad Morris. You've got, Avery Johnson, who's now starting for Kansas State in place of Will Howard. Had 5 rushing touchdowns as a 38-21 win over Texas Tech. I think this is going to be a really good game. I think it's going to be an underrated game this upcoming Saturday, but I got Kansas State to win. I think Avery Johnson and his ability to move outside the pocket, I think he's going to give TCU some trouble. I think Kansas State has a little bit better defense, and I think they get a 27-23 home victory. I think Kansas State keeps their hopes alive. TCU, their offense with Chad Morris has not looked as good. Their defense, it comes and goes. I'm picking K-State. I trust them a little more. Now on to a pretty interesting SEC game. Got South Carolina at Missouri. I think Missouri, who's ranked number 20 Missouri. South Carolina, a team a lot of people had a lot of high hopes for. Thought, Shane Beamer may be able to get this team, possibly as a dark horse in the SEC East. Could they be the team to give Georgia their first loss in however long? But their offensive line, their defense, Spencer Rattler has not had any time. He's throwing picks left and right. I think South Carolina's a mess. I don't think it's time to start the hot seat talks, but they got to get this fixed quick if they want any shot of winning anything in the SEC. But they got to get this together. And Missouri's coming in, riding the hot hand, beating Kentucky on the road. Eli Drinkwitz seems like he's putting things together finally. Maybe has earned himself another year or two at Missouri. I think Missouri's going to be riding the hot hand. I think Brady Cook, the offense, I don't see any change in South Carolina. I think they're going to struggle here as well. I think Missouri gets a home win. They're number 20 in the nation. I think they keep it rolling. I got Missouri 42, South Carolina 33. I think they get it done at home. And then on to our final game of the weekend. You got Army at number 19 LSU. Now, this is very interesting because Army has been known to pull little surprises out every now and then. And, this is in Death Valley. I think, LSU, everyone left them for dead after, what happened with BK and company. losing to Ole Miss and losing to Florida State. But I think they're finally finding their offense. Their defense is maybe starting to finally put it together, hopefully for their sake. But they got Army this weekend at home. I think Army, they're a team that gave Oklahoma a scare a couple years ago. And I would not be surprised if they gave LSU a scare. And I think in this game here, I think Army's going to have ball control, keep it out of LSU's hands. And LSU, their defense has not been that impressive. So Army could maybe run the ball on them a little bit, maybe even throw it if they would like. Because LSU is giving up a ton of points and a ton of yards. That's very concerning. They need to get that fixed in a hurry, especially if they want to be contenders in the SEC West. They got to get that fixed. But I think honestly, I think Army wins I think Army can win this game, especially with ball control and the way LSU's defense has been playing. But I think LSU, I think their offense is too explosive. I don't think even if Army does ball control, I still think LSU. Yeah, they won't have as many possessions, but I think they'll be their offense. Jaden Daniels, offense is too explosive. I got Missouri winning 24-10, and I got Missouri. I got LSU 24-10. Excuse me, my bad. Autocorrect. 24-10. LSU gets a win over Army. But that was my Week 8 preview and predictions. Let me know what you think. If you agree, disagree, tell me all of it. Want to hear all your criticism. But more importantly, make sure to hit that like button. Helps the algorithm. Make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any great videos. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Sports Talk with Austin. I'm out this thing. Peace.